The first time you see the Giuseppe Meazza Stadium, it is impossible not to gasp. Lit up, it looks like a spaceship set down in the suburbs of Milan. Those words from the Times in 2009 capture the essence of what we're about to lose. This is San Siro, La Scala del Calcio, the theater of football dreams, the cathedral where legends were born, and the fortress that has stood for nearly a century as a monument to the beautiful game. But every cathedral faces its moment of reckoning, and for San Siro, that moment has arrived. In September 2025, the Milan City Council voted 24-20 to approve the sale of this hallowed ground to Milan and Inter Milan for €197 million. With that vote, after a marathon 12-hour debate that stretched into the early hours of the morning, the fate of one of football's most iconic stadiums was sealed. Today, we tell the story of San Siro, from its birth in the roaring 20s to its scheduled demolition in 2032. This is the tale of triumph, tragedy, and transformation. Our story begins in 1925, in a Milan still recovering from the Great War, where a visionary named Piero Pirelli dreamed of something unprecedented in Italian football. Pirelli was the president of AC Milan and the son of the founder of the famous tire company. But more importantly, he was a man obsessed with English football and its magnificent stadiums. In an era when Italian stadiums were multi-purpose venues wrapped around athletics tracks, Pirelli envisioned something radical, a stadium built purely for football, following the English model. Construction began in August 1925 in the San Siro district of Milan, named after the old church of San Siro alla Vepra. The architects Ulisse Stacchini, who also designed Milan's magnificent central station, and Alberto Cugini, were tasked with bringing Pirelli's vision to life. What they created was elegant in its simplicity. 4 independent stands built from reinforced concrete with only one covered by a canopy. The stadium could accommodate between 35,000 and 40,000 spectators. And it was completed in just 13 months. The total cost? A mere 2 to 5 million Italian lire, roughly equivalent to €2,500 in today's money. An absolute bargain for what would become one of the world's most famous sporting venues. September 19, 1926, Inauguration Day. The first match at the new Stadio San Siro was a derby, AC Milan versus Internazionale. Before 35,000 spectators, Inter crushed Milan 6-3. It was a humiliating defeat for the home team, but a prophetic beginning. San Siro would forever be a theater of drama, where no result could be taken for granted. Originally, the stadium was AC Milan's exclusive property. Inter would continue playing at the Arena Civica in the city center for another 2 decades. But in 1947, Inter made the move to San Siro, and from that moment, the 2 greatest rivals in Italian football would share this sacred space. A unique arrangement that would define the stadium's character for the next 80 years. Like all great structures, San Siro would evolve through the decades, each renovation adding new layers to its architectural DNA, a Russian doll of football history. In 1935, the city of Milan acquired the stadium from AC Milan. The first major expansion connected the 4 original stands at the corners, transforming the facility into a true arena. Capacity swelled to approximately 60,000 spectators, making it the largest stadium in the world at that time. After World War II, as Italy embraced football with renewed passion, engineers Ferruccio Calzolari and Armando Ronca proposed something extraordinary. A second tier of spectator rows that would hover above the existing structure. Their solution was architectural brilliance. 19 spiraling ramps, each 200 meters long, encasing the interior arena in an imposing concrete structure. These famous spiral ramps would become one of San Siro's most distinctive features, visible from the outside and instantly recognizable around the world. 300 workers labored for 500 working days to complete the construction, all while matches continued to be played. The original plan called for 3 additional rings that would have brought capacity to 150,000 spectators. However, the topmost tier was abandoned, and the final capacity was limited to 100,000, later reduced to 85,000 for safety reasons. The new San Siro was inaugurated on April 22, 1956, with a match between Italy and Brazil. Italy won 3-0. San Siro had entered its golden age. On March 3, 1980, the stadium received its official name, Stadio Giuseppe Meazza, honoring the legendary footballer who had died the previous year. Meazza was a 2-time World Cup champion with Italy in 1934 and 1938, and a player who wore both Milan and Inter jerseys during his illustrious career. Inter fans embraced the Meazza name, while AC Milan supporters preferred the traditional San Siro. Both names would coexist, just like the two clubs themselves. As Italy prepared to host the 1990 FIFA World Cup, San Siro underwent its most dramatic transformation. Architects Giancarlo Ragazzi and Enrico Hoffer, along with engineer Leo Finzi, were entrusted with creating a world-class venue worthy of football's greatest tournament. The solution? 11 cylindrical towers arranged around the perimeter, supporting a third tier of seating, and, most iconically, a revolutionary new roof. 4 corner towers rose above the stands, supporting massive red steel girders that would become San Siro's signature feature. The renovation cost $60 million and increased capacity to 85,700 fully covered seats. Polycarbonate sheets covered each seat, ensuring spectator comfort while allowing natural light to reach the pitch. An undersoil heating system prevented ice formation on the playing surface. On June 8, 1990, the renovated San Siro hosted the World Cup's opening match. Defending champions Argentina, led by Diego Maradona, faced Cameroon. In one of the tournament's greatest upsets, Cameroon won 1-0, sending shockwaves through the football world. The spaceship had landed. San Siro had become La Scala del Calcio, the opera house of football. To understand what San Siro means to football is to understand the moments etched into its hallowed turf. San Siro hosted 3 matches during the 1934 World Cup, including Italy's 1-0 semi-final victory over Austria. Enrico Guaita's goal sending the Azzurri to their first World Cup triumph. In 1990, West Germany made San Siro their fortress, winning 4 of their 5 matches there en route to lifting the trophy. 4 European Cup and Champions League finals have been decided at San Siro. 1965, Inter defeated Benfica 1-0 on home soil, becoming the third team to win successive European titles. 1970, Feyenoord defeated Celtic 2-1 in extra time. 2001, Bayern Munich defeated Valencia on penalties after Oliver Kahn's heroic performance. 2016, Real Madrid defeated city rivals Atletico Madrid, also on penalties. But perhaps no moments shine brighter than the Milan derbies. Those explosive encounters when the city divides and San Siro trembles with passion. The 2005 Champions League quarterfinal remains infamous. With Milan leading and Inter facing elimination, Inter fans rained flares and objects onto the pitch, forcing the match to be abandoned. The image of Marco Materazzi and Rui Costa standing together, observing the chaos, became one of football's most iconic photographs. In 2010, José Mourinho's Inter defeated Pep Guardiola's Barcelona 3-1 in the Champions League semi-finals. Goals from Wesley Sneijder, Diego Milito, and Maicon. The performance announced Inter as a treble-winning force. More recently, in May 2025, Inter's 4-3 victory over Barcelona in the Champions League semi-finals, with Francesco Acerbi's dramatic late equalizer before extra time, reminded the world why San Siro remains football's greatest amphitheater. Marco van Basten's overhead kicks, Paolo Maldini's defensive masterclasses, Ronaldo's explosive runs, Andriy Shevchenko's clinical finishing, Zlatan Ibrahimovic's acrobatic goals. San Siro has been the canvas where the world's greatest artists painted their masterpieces. But stadiums, like empires, cannot stand forever. The seeds of San Siro's demise were planted long before the 2025 vote. By the 2010s, both AC Milan and Inter Milan were struggling with a fundamental problem. San Siro, for all its glory, was hemorrhaging money. The Milan City Council, which owned the stadium, faced unsustainable management and maintenance costs. The aging infrastructure required constant repairs, yet generated insufficient revenue to justify the expense. UEFA began excluding San Siro from hosting major international matches. The planned 2027 Champions League final was moved elsewhere when the municipality couldn't guarantee the stadium wouldn't be affected by renovation work. Euro 2032 hosting plans were similarly abandoned. Modern football demanded modern amenities, luxury boxes, enhanced hospitality areas, better accessibility, improved sightlines, and revenue-generating commercial spaces integrated into the stadium structure. San Siro, constrained by its historic architecture, couldn't deliver. In June 2019, Milan and Inter jointly announced their intention to build a new stadium. The plan was straightforward: construct a new 60,000-seat venue next to San Siro, then demolish the old stadium. But there was a problem. In 2021, Italy's Ministry of Cultural Heritage invoked a little-known regulation. Architectural elements in public buildings become legally protected 70 years after construction. San Siro's distinctive second ring, completed in 1955, would reach that threshold on November 10, 2025. The clock was ticking. Milan Mayor Giuseppe Sala declared 2025 a pivotal year. If issues weren't resolved by summer, he warned, much of the necessary work would occur after he left office. The city explored renovation options, including a proposal by construction company WeBuild to modernize San Siro in 3 phases while keeping it operational. But the clubs were determined. They had alternative plans. AC Milan eyeing San Donato, Inter considering Rozzano. Both clubs had already invested tens of millions in these backup locations. In March 2025, both clubs submitted a 200-page proposal to acquire San Siro and the surrounding 281,000 square meters of land. The price? 197 million euros. The proposal included a new 71,500-seat stadium designed by Foster & Partners and Manica Architecture. Total project cost: approximately 1.2 to 1.25 billion euros. Mixed-use urban district with hotels, shops, museums, residential buildings, and green spaces. Partial preservation of the historic Second Ring. On September 30th, 2025, after 12 hours of heated debate, the Milan City Council voted 24 to 20 to approve the sale. The decision was irreversible. The countdown to demolition had begun. The city justified the sale on multiple grounds. Financial sustainability. The stadium's operating costs had become untenable. UEFA exclusion. Inability to host major international matches was costing Milan prestige and revenue. Modern standards. The stadium couldn't meet contemporary accessibility and comfort requirements. Economic development. The comprehensive redevelopment promised to transform the entire district. For the clubs, the math was simple. Inter's ownership, the Oak Tree Fund, calculated that a new stadium could generate an additional 60 million euros annually. That's revenue that could buy world-class players, pay competitive salaries, and ensure financial competitiveness. In November 2025, the sale was finalized. AC Milan and Inter became joint owners of both the stadium and the surrounding land for 197 million euros. But the total cost would be far greater. The entire project, new stadium construction, infrastructure development, and the mixed-use district, is estimated at 1.2 to 1.25 billion euros. Demolition itself will require a public tender process and is estimated to cost tens of millions of euros, though exact figures haven't been disclosed. The death of San Siro will be methodical, phased, and painfully slow. According to detailed plans released in November 2025, here's how the next decade will unfold. March 2025 to February 2026. Preliminary and definitive design, implementation planning. February 2026. Implementation plan presentation. February 2026 to February 2027. Approval process. December 2025 to July 2027. Reclamation works and redevelopment of external areas. April 2027 to October 2027. Site mobilization and preparation. August 2027 to January 2030. Construction of urbanization infrastructure. October 2027 to October 2030. Construction of the new stadium. 36 months. January 2030 to December 2030. Final testing. December 2030. Inauguration of the new stadium. October 2030 to March 2031. Public tender for demolition contracts. April 2031 to May 2032. Demolition and partial conservation activities. While specific demolition techniques haven't been fully disclosed, we know that 91% of the current structure will be demolished. This includes the entire first tier, the entire third tier added in 1990, and most of the second tier. The remaining portions of the second ring, the historically protected sections completed in 1955, will be preserved and converted into a park with pedestrian pathways, serving as a memorial to the stadium's legacy. The iconic red girders, the spiraling ramps, the towers that gave San Siro its distinctive profile, all will be systematically dismantled and removed. Demolition will likely employ a combination of controlled implosion for certain sections, mechanical demolition using excavators and wrecking balls, careful preservation work for heritage sections, and extensive debris removal and site remediation. Rising in its place will be an oval-shaped stadium holding 71,500 spectators. Unlike San Siro's rectangular footprint, the new design will optimize sightlines through a two-ring structural system. The roof will be fixed and translucent. No retractable sections, but climate-controlled and allowing natural light. The iconic red girders will be gone, replaced by modern architectural elements. The new stadium will meet all UEFA Category 4 standards, ensuring it can host Champions League finals, international matches, and potentially future World Cup or European Championship games. After demolition, the wider site transformation begins. 2032 to 2036. A museum dedicated to both clubs' histories. Commercial areas and retail spaces, hotels and hospitality venues, residential buildings, football training fields, and public green spaces incorporating preserved heritage elements. The project is expected to reach completion around 2036, transforming the San Siro district into a year-round destination rather than a venue used only on match days. The agreement between AC Milan and Inter Milan represents something unprecedented in world football. Bitter rivals united in destroying the home they shared for nearly 80 years. The joint statement released after the September 2025 vote called it a historic and decisive step for the future of the clubs and the city. They promised to deliver a world-class stadium that will become a symbol of football passion worldwide. Both clubs are now owned by American investment funds. AC Milan by Redbird Capital, Inter by Oak Tree Capital. Their decision was driven not by sentiment, but by financial reality. In modern football, stadiums must be revenue-generating machines, not just places to play matches. But what are we really losing? We're losing the stadium where Inter won their 1965 European Cup on home soil, where AC Milan's legendary teams of the 1980s and 90s conquered Europe, where Maradona fell to Cameroon, where Barcelona and Inter fought that epic 4-3 battle, where Giuseppe Meazza himself once performed magic. We're losing those famous spiraling ramps where generations of fans climbed toward heaven, the red girders that lit up the Milan skyline, the acoustic perfection that made the Curva Nord and Curva Sud roar like nowhere else on earth. Yet perhaps we're not losing these things at all. Memories don't live in concrete and steel. They live in the hearts of those who were there. The ghosts of Van Basten and Maldini, of Ronaldo and Baresi, of every legendary player who graced that pitch. They'll haunt the new stadium just as surely as they haunted the old one. San Siro will fall, but La Scala del Calcio, the opera house of football, will rise again. The cathedral is dying. Long live the cathedral.